Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of the Houston Roundball Review, takeover of the lunch break, Throwback Thursday style. I'm, of course, KG Kris Gardner, owner of the Houston Roundball Review. Let's get into it. Again, this is pre-recorded Wednesday night. It is not live. Ironically, I am chaperoning a field trip for the high school juniors at my alma mater Thursday as you're watching today's takeover. But getting into it, the takeover is streaming on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel, as well as on Roku via the BS3 Network. If you have Roku, download BS3. Please, seriously, download BS3, get the app. If you don't, you can watch this show and other shows, other great content via bs3network.com or bs3tvlive.com. At last, college basketball season is here. That will be the beginning of the show. And then I'll talk about that other sport that everybody cares about more than I do, college football. That's y'all. You do you. I'm going to do me. First things first, of course, I want to thank the supporters of the Houston Roundball Review online business directory, the African Center of Wellbeing, Bayou Beat, Be Elite Basketball, Byron Riley CPA, the Pinto-Leon Law Firm, Pruitt's in the Heights, Star Pizza, Tejas Brewery, United Sports and Entertainment, VIP Realty, and Steve Saxenian and the Saxenian family. That name, their name. You watch our shows, you watch Let's Rage Cougs. The Saxenian family is a primary sponsor of Let's Rage Cougs throughout football season and men's basketball season. Now, let's get into it. Like I said, I'm happy to say this, happy to discuss it. As everyone who knows me knows and watches and follows and supports the Houston Roundball Review on whatever platform, social media, I will present and discuss my alma mater first, University of Houston. Proud of it, proud to be an alum, and it's always a great day to be a Coug. So, without further ado, Houston Cougars men's basketball non-conference schedule for the month of November. That's what I'll be discussing on today's show, probably for the next few weeks. And then in December, I'll touch on the non-con schedules in December for the H-Town teams. But everyone knows, November 3rd, Coach Kelvin Sampson and the Cougs defeated Lehigh. That game was on CBS Sports Network. Final score 75-57. It wasn't crisp and clean as Coach Sampson would like, but it was to be expected playing so many freshmen and newcomers, and they still won by 18 points. Next game up, this Saturday, November 8th, hosting Towson, 2 o'clock. Game can be seen on ESPN+, followed by on November 12th, another home game versus Oakland, 7 p.m. Central on ESPN+. Then, Battleground 2K25 at Legacy Arena in Birmingham, Alabama against Auburn. That game tips off at 2 o'clock on ESPN. Auburn struggled to beat Bethune-Cookman in their season opener. Take that for whatever it's worth. But that game was on the 3rd, so roughly 2 weeks before Auburn faces the Cougs. And maybe Auburn would play better under new head coach, which is Steve Pearl, Bruce Pearl's son. So maybe they got the kinks out against Bethune-Cookman. They had to go to overtime to beat Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman was picked to win the SWAC. So it's not like they don't have some talent there, but they scared the bejesus out of the Auburn Tigers fans. Next for the Cougs, November 20th, home game against Rider. 8 o'clock Central on TNT. Yes, TNT. And I'm going to shift scenes. TNT this season, that Cougs game against Rider on the 20th will be game number 3 of Big 12 teams. Well, really, in my opinion, game number 4, because the first one was Arizona against Florida, which Arizona won to tip off the season on TNT. That's a Big 12 game as well, but for some reason, TNT's PR department did not count it. But 15 men's basketball games, 15 Big 12 men's basketball games will be airing on TNT slash WBD slash HBO Max, True TV, whatever you want to call all that stuff. But it's the first year of that new agreement between the conference, the Big 12 conference, and Turner Sports, WBD. It also includes the Big East men's basketball and Big East women's basketball, UConn. And I'm assuming the reason that Big East women's basketball games will be airing on TNT and not Big 12 women's basketball games this season is because UConn. UConn is the queen or one of the two queens of women's basketball. I understand that. Big 12 women's basketball has a ways to go to get to national championship caliber Final Four, winning it all teams. They have some good teams, TCU, Iowa State, but they got to get to the Final Four. That is so important for the conference in women's hoops. They need to get a team to have that breakthrough, and then ideally win it all for the conference, break your mark, etc. Back at it. After the game against Ryder, the Cougs head to Vegas for 3 games in the Players Era Championship, Players Era Festival, whatever. First things first versus Syracuse, 5 o'clock Central on the 24th. Then on the 25th against Tennessee, also 5 o'clock. Probably going to be on TNT, True TV maybe, but will be televised, linear, most likely. In the last game, game number 3 of the event for the Cougs, the opponent will be based on who wins in other games and what the Cougs do in the first 2 games. If they win both, then they'll face another team of the 18 men's teams in this year's Players Era Festival. If not, then the Cougs will face someone else as part of the Players Era Festival. Next on the agenda, the Houston Cougars women's basketball non-conference schedule for November began with a W. Head coach Matthew Mitchell's debut as Cougs head coach women's basketball. November 4th, Tuesday night, Cougs defeated UT Arlington 76-59, forced 32 turnovers. 32 turnovers. The Cougs did commit 23 themselves, only made 1 3-pointer out of, 13, 14 attempts. So the Cougs have some work to do, but it's still a win. Next game for the Cougs, Saturday, November 8th, UTSA, 7 o'clock, ESPN+. So notice, Cougs fans, UH alums, November 8th, men play 2 o'clock against Towson inside Fertitta Center. Women play UTSA 7 o'clock inside Fertitta Center. If you show your ticket stub, if it's digital, I think you can get a discount, if not get in free for the women's game between the Cougs and UTSA. I'm going to be there all day, all afternoon, watching the men's game first. Then I'll do the Let's Rage Cougs post-game show. After that, the Cougs win. And then I'll be there for the Houston Cougars women's game against UTSA. Follow all the content on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel. Next, an H-Town City Showdown. Tuesday, November 11th. The Cougs host Rice. Game tips off at 6:30. Unique tip time. I'm not sure why it's 6:30 p.m. Can be seen on ESPN+, but of course, you women's basketball fans will be at Fertitta Center to watch both Rice and Houston, correct? You fans of Houston women's basketball will be at Fertitta Center to watch the Cougs battle the Rice Owls, right? Right? Of course, right? November 17th, first road game for Coach Mitchell and the Cougs at Stephen F. Austin, 6 o'clock, ESPN+. Then, November 20th against UTRGV, 6:30 p.m., ESPN+. And home against High Point, 2 o'clock, ESPN+, before going to the Bahamas. November 28th through 30th. First game on the 28th against Arkansas State, 12:30 Central. Games can be seen on Flow Hoops. And then they'll play either Tulsa or Kent State on November 30th, either at 10 o'clock a.m. or 12:30. but that game will also be on Flow Hoops. Next, H-Town college basketball non-conference schedules. Prairie View A&M men's hoops. You're going to see this opponent that PV throttled a few times for H-Town teams. Prairie View head coach Byron Smith and the Panthers defeated College of Biblical Studies on November 3rd, 95-48. Then November 5th versus University of Dallas. Game was on SWAC TV. And shout out and kudos to SWAC TV for showcasing, streaming, broadcasting football, soccer, basketball. They're doing big things, SWAC TV. The Panthers defeated Dallas UD 93-52. But the next game will be a step up in competition for the Panthers as they head to Wichita to face the Shockers from Wichita State and Coach Paul Mills this Saturday, November 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. Then November 12th at Oklahoma State, 7 o'clock. Next, after that, November 17th at Missouri, 7 o'clock Central. And then an MTE multi-team tournament in Pensacola, Florida on November 22nd and 23rd. First opponent will be UT Tennessee Martin, 4 o'clock Central. And then Prairie View will face either Southern Miss or Northern Florida on November 23rd, tip time to be determined. And then the Panthers will close out the month of November in Denton, Texas, against North Texas, the Mean Green. That game scheduled for 3 p.m. Central. Prairie View A&M women's basketball non-conference schedule for this month of November. Started out on the 3rd with an 84-60 loss in El Paso versus UTEP. Then on November 9th, traveled to Tulsa to face the Golden Hurricane. Tip time at 6:30 p.m. November 11th in Stillwater versus the Cowgirls of Oklahoma State, 11 o'clock in the morning, 11 a.m. Central. And then home on the 14th versus Texas College, 6 p.m. Central. Then going to Huntsville on November 21st to face Sam Houston State, 6:30 p.m. Coming home in the William Nix building on November 25th to host Houston Tillotson at 6 p.m. And then closing out the month of November at Texas State, 2 o'clock Central. Rice men's basketball. They began the 25-26 season with a win over College of Biblical Studies on November 4th, 109-38. The 71-point victory for Rice was the second largest margin of victory in program history. But they're going to have a big step up on November 7th as they head to Eugene, Oregon to face the Ducks, 9 o'clock Central. Followed by on November 11th versus Stephen F. Austin in Nacogdoches, 7 o'clock Central. Then home. That's my fault. That's in Tudor Fieldhouse, November 11th versus SFA. November 14th versus East Texas A&M, also 7 o'clock. Then at Tennessee, going to Knoxville to face the Vols, 7:30 p.m. Home against Charleston State on November 20th, 7 o'clock. And then the Coconut Hoops Tournament from November 24th through 26th in Fort Myers, Florida. On the 24th, they'll face Kennesaw State, 3:30. On the 25th, Florida Gulf Coast at 6 o'clock. And then wrapping it up on November 26th versus ORU Oral Roberts at 3:30. Rice Owls women's basketball. Their season has not started yet. Coach Edmonds' squad will begin the season on November 7th at South Dakota State. That's a tough road opener. That's a tough opener, period. Game is scheduled for 7 o'clock. And then again, the crosstown matchup on November 11th versus Houston inside Fertitta Center at 6:30 p.m. ESPN Plus, keep that in mind, but you're going to be at the game. November 15th, Rice will host Middle Tennessee. That should be a good one, 2 o'clock Central. November 19th, on the road against Princeton. That should be a good one, 6 o'clock. November 23rd, hosting Incarnate Word, 2 o'clock. And then going to Puerto Rico for the Puerto Rico shootout, November 26th through 28th. First game on the 26th against Illinois State, 11:30 a.m. November 27th versus Morgan State, 4:30. And then November 28th, UCF at 2 o'clock. And rounding out the H-Town teams, Texas Southern. Oh boy, TSU Coach Jones. His squad, Tigers, opened up the season with a tough opponent. November 3rd at Gonzaga, and the final score was the Zags 98 and the Tigers 43. TSU led, I think, 8-7, and then lost by 55 points. November 6th, Reed Arena versus Texas A&M, 7 o'clock. That game can be seen on the SEC Network Plus streaming network, SEC Network. November 12th, Tigers host Samford. Tip time to be announced. November 15th at Texas State, 4 o'clock. November 17th at Missouri, 7 p.m. Central. November 20th at Vanderbilt, 6 p.m. And then closing out the month of November, there's that opponent again. On November 26th, TSU will host College of Biblical Studies. Tip time to be announced. The CBS College of Biblical Studies, the gift that keeps on giving to the H-Town College teams. Texas Southern women's basketball, their season begins today, November 6th, as you're watching this, hosting Wiley College. It should be beginning the second half as you're watching this Takeover live. TSU Wiley, 11 o'clock Central AM tip time. November 12th, TSU versus Texas A&M International, 5 o'clock Central. And then heading to Austin. Whew, that game, that's a check game right there. November 16th versus the Longhorns, 4 p.m. Central. November 22nd, hosting Arlington Baptist, high noon. Ooh, I missed the top. Reverse that. November 20th at Vanderbilt, 6 o'clock. And closing out the month of November in Vegas for an MTE. November 27th against Troy, 9:30 p.m. Central. And then November 28th against Colorado State, 8 o'clock Central. So that is the wrap up for your H-Town college teams. And yes, there is a team that I mentioned, and there's a reason for it, and they know why. But you are watching the Houston Roundball Review Takeover of the lunch break. Throwback Thursday. Takeover is powered by JM&E. You're watching via the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel, or you may be watching it on Roku via the BS3 Network. And now it's time to play the promo to give you an indication of what BS3 TV is all about. And I'll be back in 90 seconds. I am, of course, KG Kris Gardner, owner of the Houston Roundball Review. Here is a little bit more about BS3 TV.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
Welcome back to today's edition of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover of the Lunch Break. Takeover is powered by JM&E. I'm, of course, KG, Kris Gardner, owner of the Houston Roundball Review. Thank you for watching today's show, either on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel or on Roku via the BS3 Network. Now it's time for football updates, recaps, and previews for the weekend. First things first, Big 12 football. Gonna bounce around a little bit. Talk about that third result. West Virginia 45, Houston 35. That was such a disappointing performance by the Cougs. Give credit to West Virginia. Their offense had it rolling, especially in that first quarter. The Cougs, 4 turnovers, 5 fumbles, lost 2 of them. Connor Wigman had the dropsies, lost the ball a few times, interceptions. The defense couldn't stop West Virginia when it needed to. And then the turnover on the punt return, it capsulized the performance, capsulized the sparse, disappointing crowd at 11 o'clock kickoff. And I guess that's the reason why. Let me do this before I get back to the scores. 11 o'clock kickoff in Houston, TDECU. I guess that's the reason why people don't want to go to the game. There's an announced crowd of 25,000. 25,000 folks weren't there. It's a Big 12 team. Team was 7-1. UA athletics marketing still doesn't do a great job promoting and giving people reasons to go to the games, go to the home games. As Dan Dunlap and I discussed on Let's Race Cougs last Saturday, if you know a game is starting at 11 o'clock at TDECU, then you need to have plans, contingencies. This is what we need to do. We need to open up for more students to attend the game. We need to do X, Y, Z. We need to advertise on different platforms. We need to advertise here. We need to advertise on this show. We need to advertise on Go Cougs. We need to advertise on radio stations in town locally. Not just the same old, same old. We need to do different things to get people to come to the games for those 11 o'clock kickoffs. And then do some of those same things for 2:30 kickoffs. Kickoffs on Fridays. Kickoffs on Thursday, whatever. It was an embarrassment, the lack of attendance and it was a game to honor Coach Kurt Hester. May he rest in peace. The performance by the team was disappointing. The lack of attendance was disappointing. It was all around disappointing effort for the football program and for Houston athletics. Now back at it. Big 12 football. Y'all know I don't hold my tongue. Never have, won't start now. Last weekend, Arizona State 24-19 over Iowa State. Both win for Sun Devils. Baylor 30-3 over UCF. And that's who the Cougs face on this Friday, on November 7th. Again, that 45-35 loss by Houston to West Virginia. Texas Tech with a big win, impressive win over Kansas State, 43-20. Oklahoma State lost 38-21 to Kansas. Arizona put it on Colorado 52-17. I think that's 2 straight games that the Buffaloes have allowed 50-plus points. Utah, in a battle of top 25 ranked teams, Utah said, yeah, y'all may be ranked higher than us, but not after this game. The Utes 45, the Cincinnati Bearcats 14. Top 2 teams in the conference. 2 of the top 3, Utah, Texas Tech, and BYU. And speaking of Texas Tech and BYU, as I said, Houston UCF this Friday, 7 o'clock on FS1. But look at there. Saturday, November 8th, BYU at Texas Tech on ABC, 11 a.m. I bet you that won't be a problem getting folks to the game there at Texas Tech. Just saying, I know it's 2 teams, both those teams are in the CFP playoff rankings, but 11 a.m. start won't be too early for the fans in Lubbock. Next, also 11 o'clock, this one's on TNT. Colorado at West Virginia, TNT and also HBO Max. Kansas at Arizona, ESPN2, 2:30 p.m. And then Iowa State at TCU on Fox, also 2:30 p.m. Some notes from Big 12 football. The tried and true note, the first note of each of the takeovers, as I do for Big 12 football. The Big 12 Conference will publicly provide player availability reports for all conference games this season at big12sports.com/FB reporting, beginning 3 days prior to kickoff. Entering week 11, 7 programs are within a game and a half of the top of the conference standings for a spot in the Big 12 Football Championship in Arlington, Texas. For a second consecutive week, ESPN's College Game Day visits a Big 12 campus as it travels for the top 10 matchup between BYU and Texas Tech in Lubbock. Saturday showdown between number 8 BYU and number 9 Texas Tech on ABC marks the Big 12's first conference game between two top 10 teams since 2021. 7 Big 12 programs are bowl eligible, with another 4 that are 1 win away after week 10. BYU is one of 4 remaining undefeated teams in FBS entering week 11, starting 8-0 in consecutive seasons for the first time in program history. The Big 12 has 10 different teams with a win over an AP top 25 opponent this season, which is tied for the most of any FBS conference. Utah, 36.4 points per game, and Texas Tech, 34.6 points per game, rank first and third among Power 4 schools in margin of victory this season. Arizona, Cincinnati, Houston, and Utah give the conference 4 programs who have already exceeded their win totals from last season. Big 12 QB Club. 6 conference quarterbacks rank in the top 15 nationally for total touchdowns, passing and rushing. Baylor's Sawyer Robertson tied for second with 28. Cincinnati's Brendan Sorsby tied for second with 28. Houston's Connor Wigman tied for fifth with 25. Arizona's Noah Fafita tied for ninth with 24. TCU's Josh Hoover, 24. And K-State's Avery Johnson tied for 14th with 23. Utah has beaten 2 AP top 25 opponents by 30 or more points in the same season for the first time in program history. That's impressive. Now, some American football, American Conference football. Results from last week, week 10, Thursday on the 30th. UTSA 48-26 over Tulane in San Antonio. Final score on Halloween, Memphis 38-14 over Rice inside Rice Stadium. Saturday on the 1st, UConn 38-19 over UAB. Army 20, Air Force 17. North Texas snapped Navy's unbeaten season with a 31-17 victory over the Midshipmen. East Carolina 45-17 win at Temple. This week, Thursday, November 6th, UTSA at South Florida on ESPN, 6:30 p.m. Central. Friday, November 7th, Tulane at Memphis, also on ESPN, 6 p.m. Saturday matchups on the 8th, 11 a.m., Temple at Army, CBS Sports Network. UAB at Rice, ESPN Plus, 1 o'clock Central. Charlotte at East Carolina, ESPN Plus, 2 o'clock kickoff. Tulsa at Florida Atlantic, also streaming on ESPN Plus and 2 p.m. kickoff. And then Navy at Notre Dame, NBC and Peacock, 6:30 prime time, 6:30 p.m. for that matchup. Some notes from the conference. Week 11 notes. UTSA won its 22nd consecutive regular season home contest, defeating Tulane 48-26 last Thursday. UTSA QB Owen McCowan completed his first 16 passes, a Roadrunner record, and was 31 of 33 with 370 yards and 4 touchdowns in the victory. His completion percentage of 93.9% is tied for the second best in conference history. Memphis also improved to 8-1 on the season with the 38-14 win over Rice last Friday. With Memphis running back Frank Pezon scoring 3 rushing touchdowns, the Tigers are the only FBS team to feature 4 players with at least 6 rushing touchdowns. Pezon, Brendan Lewis, Sutton Smith, and Greg DeRosiers Jr. Love those names. North Texas defeated Navy 31-17 last Saturday to improve to 8-1 on the season. The loss for the midshipmen ended the nation's second longest active win streak. The Mean Green did not score in the fourth quarter against Navy, ending a streak of 32 consecutive quarters with a score, including overtime periods. Dawson Jones's 27-yard field goal, with time expiring, propelled Army to a 2017 win at Air Force. The field goal was set up by Cale Hellam's 42-yard pass completion to Brady Anderson with 24 seconds left. Army has beaten Air Force 3 consecutive times, its first 3-game streak in the series since 1976, 77, and 78. And Army has won 7 of the last 9 meetings between the two programs. Ooh, that's impressive. Now, wrapping it up with some SWAC football updates and scores. Let's get this going with the SWAC. Wasn't a good weekend for the H-Town area teams. Last Saturday, Alabama A&M lost 13-10 to Grambling. Grambling had to battle for that to win. They did. So here it is. Alabama State 31, Prairie View 28. Prairie View had a chance to send the game into overtime, but the field goal attempt barely missed. Was wide. I think it was wide left. Some fans thought it was good based on the angle where they were sitting. And the official said, nope, it was no good. So the Panthers lost 31-28 to Alabama State. Texas Southern lost at home to Alcorn State 31-14. Southern, their woes continue this season with a 40-21 road loss to Arkansas Pine Bluff. Bethune-Cookman 42-14 over Mississippi Valley State. And then Jackson State just put to rest any positive vibes for Florida A&M with a 41-16 thumping of the Rattlers on the Rattlers' home field. This weekend, week 11 in SWAC play. This Saturday, 2 o'clock, game on SWAC TV. Got 4 matchups on SWAC TV. Again, salute to Commissioner Charles McClellan and everything he's done to put together SWAC TV and the product. Prairie View A&M at Alabama A&M, 2 o'clock. Texas Southern at Alabama State, 2 o'clock. And then on HBCU Go, Bethune-Cookman at Grambling at 2 p.m. Central. Florida A&M at Arkansas Pine Bluff on HBCU Go at 2 p.m. Bethune-Cookman at Grambling is on SWAC TV, kicking off at 2 o'clock. Jackson State at Mississippi Valley State, SWAC TV, 2 o'clock. Then on ESPN Plus, Southern at Alcorn State. Alcorn State should keep Southern struggles on the ledge again. That game kicks off at 3 p.m. That will winded down for this edition of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover. Once again, scan that QR code to support the Houston Roundball Review with YouTube membership. And also, thanking the Houston Roundball Review members of the business directory. If you want to be part of it, and let me get rid of the SWAC banner as I discussed, my business directory. Send an email to advertise@thehrr.com. Shout out again to African Center of Wellbeing, Bayou Beat, B Elite Basketball, Byron Riley CPA, the Pinto Leon Law Firm, Pruitt's in the Heights, Star Pizza, Tejas Brewery, United Sports and Entertainment, VIP Realty, and the Saxenian family. As I asked you, and I mentioned it, here's some more details about the YouTube membership of the Houston Roundball Review. 2 tiers, the All League tier, $2.99 per month. Early access to new videos, photos and status updates, loyalty badges and emojis, and then the All World tier, $4.99 per month. In addition to the All League perks, members only YouTube shorts, members only videos, members only live streams, and members of the All World tier also can receive a free pizza from Star Pizza. You have to watch the exclusive video available to the All World members to learn what you need to do to receive that free pizza from Star Pizza. But that is just a way for us, me and Star Pizza, Mike Pittman, to thank you for supporting the Houston Roundball Review. That'll do it for this edition of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover of the Lunch Break. Takeover powered by JM&E. Streaming on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel and also on Roku via the BS3 Network. Keep in mind, since the Cougs football team plays on the road against UCF Friday, 7 o'clock kickoff, we will have Let's Rage Cougs, so join us here on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel for Let's Rage Cougs postgame show after the Cougs hopefully bounce back with a win over UCF after last weekend's disappointing loss to West Virginia. Get back on the right track. And then Saturday, after the Cougs men's game, join us again for Let's Rage Cougs postgame show as we discuss the Cougs win there. And at some point this season, Dayon Dunlap and I will begin Let's Rage Cougs postgame shows for Houston women's basketball. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel and also the Pod PAWD Slamma Jamma YouTube channel. Not too many, especially in H-Town, not too many outlets will have a post-game show for women's basketball. We're going to bring that to you. So thank you as always for spending time with me, KG, Houston Roundball Review, the takeover of the lunch break, Throwback Thursday style. Wrap it up in conclusion. Since 1994, the Houston Roundball Review, local name, global perspective. Everyone, take care. Peace.